Hey everyone, we're back for another episode of Justice Talks with the New York Women's Foundation. I'm your host, Nina Rogers, pronouns she, her, and I'm so excited to see you again. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to click that button below and subscribe today. You can watch our first two episodes of Justice Talks if you haven't seen them already, or run them back again and share them with a few friends. So as Black History Month continues on, the Foundation is proud to celebrate the accomplishments, achievements, and vision of Black Americans, and in particular, women, girls, and gender expansive youth of color. One thing that we want to focus on this month is the impact and legacy of Black Americans with disabilities. And what better way to do that than bringing forth in this episode a great partner of the Foundation, Nikki Brown-Booker. She's a program officer at the Disability Inclusion Fund at Borealis Philanthropy. Nikki has a wide range of experiences as an advocate and activist in the disability justice movement. She's the former executive director of Easy Does It Emergency Services and has been a psychotherapist. We're really glad to have Nikki on the show today so we can learn a little bit more about her experiences as an organizer and what philanthropy can do to continue to move the disability justice movement forward. Without further ado, let's jump right in. So I've read a lot about your biography, your experiences, and you have a wealth of knowledge I just want to tap into today. So how has your background as a community organizer and a psychotherapist informed your approach to philanthropy?
Interestingly, being a psychotherapist helps a lot in my role in philanthropy, because as the therapist, you're really trained on how to read kind of like the unseen communications that's happening, and also to kind of read the room, so to speak. And also, you obviously learn a lot of communication skills and really about building relationships. And I feel like philanthropy is so much about building relationships. And then my community organizing work, because I'm operating this disability inclusion fund, I think it's just been really important that I have the lived experience of doing organizing, because so many of our grantees are organizers, or come from organizations that are focused on organizing. So I think it's really helpful that I've had that experience, and also that I've worked in disability, as an advocate, as myself, working kind of on the ground for many years in the world of disability and like racial equity. So I really feel like all of those things have really brought, I bring those every day to my work in philanthropy.
And thinking about all this experience that you've had, what do you see as the next frontier of the disability justice movement?
That's such a good question. Well, disability justice is really about, it's, different from disability rights, in that it's kind of like the next step in the kind of, and in the how the field of disability has evolved. Disability rights was really focused on just getting like kind of basic civil rights for people with disabilities. And I feel like disability justice is really about, it's deeper. It's really about understanding that every body, a physical body, has its own uniqueness about it, and that we should value all bodies, whether they have a disability or not. And also, I think another thing about disability justice is it really honors and pays attention to the intersectionality of people with disabilities, and that we're not like one type of person, right? Where disability is not monolithic. We have, people with disabilities that are people of color, that, live in rural areas and big cities, and that or in that having a disability is really kind of one aspect of yourself. So I really feel like disability justice is really kind of tapping into that idea that we are all unique and that our uniqueness doesn't make us different in the way that we should be treated differently than someone else. Um, and that we should, and that the world, the society needs to honor all bodies, um, and whatever uniqueness that is. So I really feel like this the disability kind of movement is really moving more towards towards justice.
That's a good space to be. That's where we want to go. And in thinking about moving the field towards not just rights, but true justice for people with disabilities, what kind of learning do you think still needs to be done across the field to better support the movement?
Well, this is my first job in philanthropy, and I've been here at the fund for about 2 years now. And before I was in philanthropy, I was an executive director of a disability organization. And, you used to have to work really hard to get those dollars in the door in order to, run our programs. And what I noticed um, from that perspective of being, an executive director is that all of the disability funding was really focused on like research or like direct support programs, like employment programs, and which are all really important things that we need to support. But like mentioned earlier, disability is so much broader than just, you know, getting money to pay for physical therapy or getting money to do research on what the big newest disease that's out there. So, so when I was joined philanthropy, became, started working in philanthropy, what I really noticed is that uh, foundations really don't have a real analysis of what disability looks like and how to really fund disability in a really full manner. And that it's at many different levels. So it's like at the staff level, a lot of uh, people and foundations don't know very much about disability and really need a lot of education about what disability is, what it looks like, what the needs are for the community, and then also just thinking um, about the fact that we're right now we're so interested in like this idea of equity and and also diversity, but that disability is often usually the last thing that's thought about when they think about like diversity and equity, um, and inclusivity. It's like they'll think about other things like race and gender, but often it's just not even in the minds of people. So, and that's really reflected in the way disability has been funded in the past. So I think that's one of the things that's been really important about the Disability Inclusion Fund specifically, is that where we really look at the full totality of what disability is. So, we have funded like theater programs that have the majority of their staff are people with disabilities, and they're doing stories and plays about like disability and incorporating disability actors. So, so just like thinking about it from a much broader perspective.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think thinking about that broader perspective, you said something around how disability is often the that one form of identity that people tend to forget about when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And I think now, with it being Black History Month, I think that's another layer that I want to explore that through. So how have you, as we're celebrating, the legacy of Black Americans this month through Black History Month, reflect a little bit on the legacy of Black Americans with disabilities and how can those experiences be better reflected in society and how it's shaped?
Really good question. I mean, I think, throughout history, there have been many people that have had disabilities. Like Harriet Tubman had a disability, and a lot of people don't even know that, right? So, um, um, and, kind of the experience of like, the kind of slave experience, a lot of people became disabled because of slavery. Um, and also, just through time, just this understanding that there is a, a, a really close relationship between the civil rights movement and the disability rights movement. And in fact, one of the first major actions related to disability, um, that happened here in the Bay Area. Like the Black Panthers really supported the people with disabilities who were actually protesting the 504 protest, which was trying to get the federal government to actually acknowledge that they had passed some civil rights legislation, but were not actually putting any of that into place. And so there was this big, huge uh, they actually took over the federal building for I think like 28 days. It's one of the longest sit-ins in American history. And the Black Panthers were one of the major groups that really supported people with disabilities, like by bringing them food and really supporting that movement. So there's a lot of interrelationships related to like the civil rights movement and also of the disability rights movement. Um, but I think historically, it's like there are, many important people with disabilities who are also people of color, who are also Black, that, either because of their own internalized like ableism, they didn't want to acknowledge that, or just, not wanting to have just another thing that would marginalize them.
Mm. You just gave us a history lesson there. So I think in, thinking about that kind of partnership, how can organizations like the New York Women's Foundation better partner with people with disabilities to continue to advance the disability justice movement?
Well, I mean, I think from a foundation perspective, one of the most important things is to actually really fund organizations that are run and led by people with disabilities, um, and to also, really look at their own like kind of internal practices and education and training um, around and making sure that they have a really strong disability analysis um, in their work throughout their work. But I really think that partnerships with grantees can transform philanthropy and really transform the movement, because there is some interdependence there, right? You can't run a program if you don't have the money to run it. and um and I think it's really important for foundations to really understand the work and the people that they're serving. I mean, that's one of the things that I think really, we are really intentional about here at Borealis and with the Disability Inclusion Fund, is that we are really trying to find those organizations that are at the grassroots, that are really trying to, uh, you know, do something different, be innovative. And I feel like, if all foundations are really think about, wanting to really support the movement, then supporting organizations, like I said, that are disability led, that are BIPOC led, um, and that are doing just really, interesting, innovative work that's really going to make a difference for not only just for people with disabilities, but for like society as a whole.
There it is. There it is. Nikki, before we go, one last question, which I ask every guest of Justice Talks. What is justice to you?
Oh, such a good question. To me, justice is about everybody getting what they need, and everybody being seen as human and being treated with dignity and respect. To me, that's really what justice is all about. People with disabilities have often not been treated with dignity and respect, or not being treated as being human, right? So, for people with disabilities, we want a piece of the pie just like everyone else. And for me, it's like, I've had to really work hard to get to where I'm at, and fought a lot of like ableism throughout my career. So to me, justice is really about not about like acknowledging that people are human, they need to be treated well, and that we all have things that we're dealing with, right? And those things don't make us any less than. So I mean, justice is about like, just being who accepting who you are, having other people accept who you are, and that that we're kind of working together to make this a much better society to live in.
Now that is a definition I can get behind. I think we could all get behind. Nikki, thank you so much for your time today and for stopping by Justice Talks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching another episode of Justice Talks. Be sure to stay connected with the foundation until we meet again. You can sign up for email updates at nywf.org/sign up. Also, be sure you're following us on social media on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on episodes of Justice Talks. And if you want to see more content like this, you can make a gift to the foundation. Text Justice Talks to 44321. Again, I was your host, Nina Rogers, and we'll see you next time.